let's look at some points before we round off. Some of the agreements. Agreement number 3. In accordance with the decision of August 9, 1966, the officers agreed that army personnel of Northern Nigeria origin should return to the north from the west. In order to meet the security needs of the west, a crash program of recruitment and training is necessary, but the details should be examined after the military committee has finished their work. You see, the East had top military officers like Madiebo in the army. The North had most of the infantry troops. But Yoruba nation had the fewest persons in the military. You know, when some people accuse Awolowo of not supporting Ojukwu, you know, when Awolowo came out from prison, he did an analysis and discovered that Yorubas had few persons in the army. There was no way they could fight. You know, Yorubas were not interested in the army. They were more of intellectuals, lawyer, doctor. They were not interested. So before the war emerged, Awolowo discovered that Yorubas didn't have armies. In fact, Fulanis were occupying Yoruba land. At some point, Awolowo had to demand from Gowon to withdraw the Fulani, Hausa, and Northern officers from Yoruba land. Because Yorubas became afraid. How come? So in Aburi, they agreed that Northern officers should leave Yoruba land. Then a form of recruitment should be made so that we will have Yoruba army officers. Remember when Agui Ironsi was killed, the next senior military officer was a Yoruba man, Babafemi Ogundikbe, not Gowon. He was supposed to have taken over. But the Northern officer said, who you be? No way. Because he had no infantry like Yoruba young officers to really back him. There were few. People like Major Alabi Sama, who later became a general. There were few of them. You know, Akinri Ade. Unlike the North, that had mostly the infantry officers. If you even looked at the war, the core North that really fought that war was the Middle Belt. You know, where you had the Langtang generals. You know, the Middle Belt was like the core of the army, not really the Fulani. Where your Yakubu Gowon came from. Yes, you had some Fulani officers like Buhari, Murtala Muhammad. Babangida was not a Fulani man. So another agreement that was reached in Aburi is that the Supreme Military Council should deal with all matters of policy, including promotion, to top executive posts in the armed forces and the police. The legislative and executive authority of the federal military government should be referred for determination, provided that where a meeting was not possible, such a matter must be referred to the military governors for their comments and concurrence. That was the point Obadiah Milafia raised in that 2021 interview. They agreed that appointments to the diplomatic and consular post, as well as to super-scale post in the federal public service and equivalent post in the federal corporations, must be approved by the Supreme Military Council, and the governors of the regions are members of that council, so they can hold the council to ransom if they want to. Let me jump to some other points. You see, if you go online, you will find the details of Aburi Accord. You can download it online, read it. They also agreed that the ad hoc constitutional committee should resume sitting as soon as practicable, and the question of accepting the unanimous recommendations of September 1966 should be considered at a later meeting of the Supreme Military Council. They agreed that Lieutenant Colonel Ojukwu should keep his order that non-Easterners should leave the Eastern region under constant review with a view to its being lifted as soon as practicable. And he agreed that the next meeting of the Supreme Military Council should be within Nigeria at a venue to be mutually agreed. When Gowon reneged on the agreement, Ojukwu insisted. He said, on Aburi we stand. I don't know what to call this book, but I think this is one of the best work on the Biafran War. Because it is not one person telling his or her own story or embellishing the story. What the author of this book did, Dr. Luke Nnaemeka Aneke, did was to sit down and research on the work of journalists, researchers during the war. So he compiled like daily story of what happened till the end of the war. This book is a must-have for any student of history. You know, chapter 1 is the federal elections. On Thursday, December 31st, 1964, what happened? Election crisis widened. You see, he gives a note of what happened that day. On December 31st, 1964, 3 Federal Electoral Commission members resigned. You know, he gives you that analysis. It's like a diary, a writer keeping a diary of events leading to the war and events during the war and events after the war. I don't know. I think for me, it is my best work on Biafra. We just got about 100 copies. The book is scarce, but luckily, we got about 100 copies recently. It's the old publication. I think the author just kept it for himself, but just decided to release it to us. So you can get this work on udarabooks.com. Get it. I insist, get it. Try and afford it. It's a good book. And it's a big book. How many pages? 770-something pages. Yes. I think 777. Okay, 71 pages. 771 pages. I recommend this book to you. This is the book of the week. The untold story of the Nigerian-Biafran War. Get your copy on udarabooks.com or through our WhatsApp numbers. Thank you for being there. And thank you for always joining the broadcast.